Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Tactical Breakdown series, the show in which we look at players in an analytical and statistical way, break them down and give you all the key information that you need to do the best understanding of these players that might sign for Arsenal, have signed for Arsenal, players at which we could see coming into the Arsenal and different systems that we could be incorporating next season based upon the signings that we make. And into next season, of course, I'll be joined by Drew and Graham Brooks to break down every single fixture into the league season. So make sure you check those out, and you'll be able to by subscribing, by clicking that notification button to make sure that you never miss a show, even when we go live with our Raw reaction shows. If you want to be joining us in the live chat, you can. Just click that little bell notification button. And of course, leave those comments in the comment section below. Comments are always fantastic. Love reading through them, and your support is always appreciated. But you are here today for an episode basically talking about, in the small amount of time that we've got left at the end of this window, Arsenal are still in the market for trying to find a centre-back. Of course, we've signed, it seems, Nicolas Pepe from Lille. It looks like we're going to be signing Kieran Tierney as well. And so therefore, signing a centre-back is now top priority. And it should have been the priority for the whole of this summer, ironically. But it's taken this long because of targets moving around, not being able to afford a certain amount of players. Or just targets not being identified that Arsenal could do with. So in this video, we're going to take a look at 5 players that I think could be, or rather should be, targeted by Arsenal. Some are more realistic than others. Obviously, it's all dependent on finances and whether the player would want to move and whether the team would want to sell. But we're going to talk about a lot of different scenarios and break them down. So let's get straight into the video and talk about our first target. Now, our first target hails from Portugal and Benfica. We've been previously linked to this defender, and of course we did a tactical breakdown on him, and that's the 22-year-old Ruben Diaz. Now, Ruben Diaz has been fantastic for Benfica, broke into the Portuguese national team, and has already been made basically their main starting centre-back for the Portuguese national side, looking to take on the role of Pepe after Pepe moves on. And now he's looked as someone by Benfica who's worth a lot of money. In fact, he's being linked with Manchester United as sort of an alternative for Harry Maguire if they can't get that deal done. It looks to be about £60 million thereafter, and Man United supposedly had a bid rejected for him. Now, that's a lot of money, okay? But this is a player of a lot of talent. In fact, I'm going to pass over very quickly to my friend Jose Miguel, who did his tactical breakdown in the video that we did previously. So here's a small clip from that episode where Jose Miguel talks about Ruben Diaz in a little bit of detail.
He's very strong physically, quite tall, and has a keen sense of positioning despite his young age. Ruben Diaz was raised in Benfica, that have been launching really good players lately, and in the past 2 seasons he has become indisputable in Benfica.
So you can clearly tell that Jose rates this guy. He's got a lot of talent breaking into that Benfica side. He's reasonably tall. He does the job pretty well. And, I mean, if you look at the fact he's worth 60 million, there's a reason for that. He's a very good player. Do I think Arsenal will sign him? I just don't see how we can structure a deal for him, even though we are linked to the Portuguese centre-back. But who knows? I didn't think that we would be signing Nicolas Pepe this season. So the fact that we managed to get a deal done for him is all the more evidence that any deal, if we structure it in the right way, can happen for Arsenal. Let's move on to our second target. Then our second target is Dea Upamecano from RB Leipzig. Now, a lot of people in the comment sections of all the videos that we've been doing saying, why are we not linked to this guy? Why is nothing happening with Dea Upamecano? He's a 20-year-old. He's played at the under-21s. He's played at several lower age category international levels for France, and he is very, very highly rated. He moved from Red Bull Salzburg. In fact, you can see on the screen now part of an article that I wrote back in 2017 on this guy, when we were looking for outside the boot, looking at the top 100 players to watch in 2017, and this guy was one of those. In fact, I'll leave the link in the description for this article where you can check out some loads of other players that were being looked at in 2017. You can see how close we actually were 2 years ago to getting some of these right that were going to flourish into fantastic talents. Kieran Tierney's on that list as well, ironically. But yeah, this guy has definitely flourished into someone that is worth a lot more money now. He's fast, he's quick, he's got strength, he's got all the attributes of a player that Arsenal are desperately crying out for. Could he come into this Arsenal side? Well, it would take a lot of money. Again, you're looking at the same sort of fee as Ruben Diaz. You're looking at a fee between 50 to 60 million pounds. RB Leipzig know the value of this guy. They know that his centre-back partner Konate is also someone who's extremely good, and either of those players are going to be looking to fetch fees upwards of £40 million easily, and that's because they're so young. They're very, very successful in what they've done already, and obviously they're very quick and have so much potential, already playing Champions League football at that age. and really bossing it in the defence is obviously going to command a huge fee. He has got weaknesses to his game. Sometimes his decision making can be a bit rash, which can let him down. But ultimately, his strength and power and his positional awareness is really, really good. He can have those mistakes because he's able to use his pace to get back into positions in which he can outmuscle players running through on goal or put the tackle in to get the ball back. But he's a fantastic player, someone that definitely needs to be looked out for amongst all the top players among Europe. So keep an eye on him. Fingers crossed maybe we could see him in an Arsenal shirt one day. I highly doubt it this season, but he's someone that Arsenal should definitely be looking at. Moving on to the next one then, we've got more of a Premier League target, and that is Lewis Dunk of Brighton. Now, it's someone that everyone has been saying, why are we not in for Lewis Dunk? He's one of those players that's got a less inspiring name, for instance. He obviously plays for Brighton, which puts a lot of people off because they're like, oh, he plays for Brighton, he's a centre-back in the Premier League, that's boring. We want a more exotic player. But at the end of the day, Arsenal are in desperate need. They're in desperate need of signing someone who is going to be that Premier League experience, someone who's going to come in and already knows the league, doesn't need to transition whatsoever, and he can come in immediately and really hit the ground running for Arsenal, be combative, be strong, be dynamic, good at passing. All these things are something that we need in this Arsenal side. So to get him in for Arsenal would be a huge coup for the club. The only issue is that he's being linked with currently Leicester City because, as mentioned with the Ruben Diaz deal, Harry Maguire looks like he could be going to Manchester United. And if he does do that, then Leicester are looking at Lewis Dunk as a possible replacement for him. And if you're going to replace someone that is supposedly rated by a lot of people as the best centre-back in the Premier League in Harry Maguire, I tend to disagree on that fact. But if you do believe that, to be replacing him with someone like Lewis Dunk, obviously that's a huge credit to the player. And so moving forwards, maybe is someone that definitely Arsenal could look at. But these Premier League clubs, as we've seen with Crystal Palace, don't really like to structure their deals in certain ways. They like a lot more of the money up front so they can then reinvest it in a replacement, whereas the European teams are more open to the structuring of deals like we've seen with Lille and Pepe. So if we were going to go for Lewis Dunk, I think we'd have to be basically... we'd have to substitute a lot of money in for this deal, or we might not have that money moving forwards. If we then move on to our fourth option on the table is someone that was linked to Arsenal right at the start of the window, and that is Getafe's Jene de Konum. Now, Jene de Konum is obviously a Tongolese centre-back, and he's someone that, whilst linked to Arsenal as a sort of a budget player that Unai Emery liked, the links have gone completely cold on this guy. And he's been completely cold on this guy across Europe. I expected to see a lot more interest coming in for Jene de Konum than we've actually seen. He's obviously very, very quick as a defender. Not that tall, only 5'10"-ish in terms of height, which can put a lot of people off. But his decision-making is very good. For a shorter player as a centre-back, he's got tons of strength. He can outmuscle plenty of players on the pitch. But it's his decision-making, his positional awareness, and his ability to get back into the right positions and make strong challenges that have set him aside for plenty of La Liga defenders this season. And so if Arsenal are going to go in for someone like Jene de Konum, I think it'd be a very, very good deal for them. They could get him on the cheap. They could structure a deal, which means you'd have to pay as much. And I think that he's certainly playing at Getafe, playing in the Europa League next season, which was a massive achievement for Getafe, getting to that Europa League. Actually, it was a huge shame they couldn't achieve Champions League last year. They were so very close to that. But if Arsenal could get someone like Jene de Konum in, who is obviously still, he's 27, so he's hitting his prime, for a cut price deal for a decent amount of money for the club, I think he's someone that could come in and be very, very strong for the team, although he's not that tall. And I'm going to keep coming back to that fact because it's a very obvious point to point out. But he's someone who's got the defensive ability, and he had a fantastic year last year, which meant that he can obviously push on and hopefully do that in the Premier League. Do I think it will happen? I think there's a reason the links have gone cold, of course, which is a big shame. But hopefully we can do something with this player, because if someone doesn't come on for him, he's going to stay at Getafe, and Getafe are going to keep a fantastic player, which is great for them because they got European football. But I think he's certainly, after last season, deserving of a big move to a bigger club to see what he's really capable of. And then the last target on the list is more of a hipster's choice. I've given you 4 that Arsenal have either been linked to or certainly should be. But this is someone that I've written previously about. Someone that I did a lot of research on when I had to write about. He signed for Sevilla in January of last year. From Ajax on initially a loan with an obligation to buy, I believe it was this summer, and they have done that, but it doesn't mean that he can't move on. And actually there's been rumours that this player would like to move on because of the other signings Sevilla has made, and that's Maximilian Wöber. He's an Austrian centre-back, signed from Ajax, left-footed, can play at left-back and centre-back, mainly as a centre-back though. But he's someone that when I do my research on him, because I did a tactical analysis on him, which I'll leave the link to the article in the description. But he's someone that's really impressed me as a player, very quick. He was playing with Matthijs de Ligt at Ajax when obviously the two were both there, and they were the centre-back pairing for a lot of the time that de Ligt was there. And obviously before Daley Blind came along, but they sort of rotated between them, and Woba then played quite a lot of left-back as well, and Tagliafico rotated between them. But he's someone that came into Sevilla with a lot of potential, but now they've signed a couple of defensive reinforcements this summer. Actually, they spent a lot of money on Kunda, for instance. He's someone that's frustrated by the fact that he might not get as many minutes. Now, Arsenal are in the market possibly for a loan signing of a centre-back, and no one really shouts out to me more than this guy. I think Sevilla would be open to seeing him go out on loan to get minutes because he's still only 21 years of age, and so therefore Arsenal could say, oh, let's take a risk on this guy, let's go get him on loan for a season. We know we're in need of defensive backup. We're seeing other players linked away, which I'm going to cover in a second. But Maxi Woba may be someone that you could go have a little bit of a research on, see what he's like, see what he's about. But I think he's got a lot of potential to be a really, really good player. So there's an option there. I hope you've enjoyed the five I've given you. The reason why I've offered some up that are of more expense is because obviously some of our centre-backs and defenders are being linked with moves away. Christian Bielik is being linked with a £10 million move away, it seems, to Derby. Laurent Koscielny is a £10 million move to either Rennes or Bordeaux. Still not sure about his final destination, though. And then you've got Skodran Mustafi, who's being linked with a 20 to 30 million euro move to Monaco, for instance, and to some clubs in Serie A, although they have recently been denied. So there's a lot of money that could be coming in from certain defensive players in our team. Fingers crossed we can get that money in and we can see some of that reinvested before the end of the window in a much better defender for the team to be enjoying watching in that red and white shirt next season. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you can tune in for some of our Raw Reaction live shows. And we'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.